Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Now, if you've been following along, you know this is part 3, the final part of our journey into the Mount Chiliad mystery.
Yeah.
It's widely considered, well, probably the greatest video game mystery ever, right? Haunting players since GTA V dropped back in 2013. Today, we're shifting gears a bit. We're moving past just the theories, the speculation, and trying to build, well, an actual plan.
That's the goal. We've already covered the baseline stuff, what the community definitely figured out. You know, the mural, the message, come back when your story is complete. That led everyone to the 100% completion requirement. And ultimately, seeing that UFO up on Mount Chiliad during a storm, 3 a.m.
Right, the classic sighting. But I mean, that was clearly just the first step, wasn't it? The big question, the one that's kept people digging for, what, over a decade now? It's still, where do we go from here?
Exactly, because you've still got those two big icons at the bottom of the mural staring you in the face. The cracked alien egg and the jetpack. Neither of those have ever been, legitimately found or unlocked in the single-player story mode.
So our mission today for this final deep dive, it feels pretty crucial. We need to take all these scattered clues, the hidden data, the weird in-game messages, cut content, all that stuff,
All the fragments.
and try to piece them together, like into a cohesive, testable sequence. Can we actually build a roadmap to finally find that jetpack and that egg?
That's the plan. And importantly, based on the solid evidence, the data that's actually been pulled from the game files, not just wild theories.
Okay, let's dig in.
Yeah.
Why won't the community let this go?
What?
Why the insistence that it's not solved? Let's start with those two really stubborn mural icons, the jetpack and the egg. The jetpack first. I mean, anyone who played San Andreas remembers the jetpack. It's kind of synonymous with GTA Freedom, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Iconic.
So seeing it right there on the Chiliad mural, next to the UFO symbol, it felt like a guarantee. You thought, okay, there's definitely going to be some epic unlock in GTA V's story.
Yeah, it seemed obvious.
And yet here we are, over 10 years later. Still no single-player jetpack. So why do people still believe it's there?
Well, the persistence comes down to the evidence found right at the beginning. Almost immediately after the game launched in 2013, the community, the modders, the data miners, they started digging. And they found concrete references to a jetpack deep in the game's foundational files, like actual commands labeled jetpack.
So not just a picture, but code references.
Exactly.
Right.
And more than just a name tag, the source code actually had lines describing how it would work. There was a specific note saying the jetpack vehicle would inherit traits from parachute mode.
Parachute mode, so suggesting movement physics.
Precisely. It suggests they weren't just thinking about it or had a placeholder model. They'd actually started coding how it would handle, how it would move. It implies a functional single-player version was, well, maybe not finished, but definitely in development when the game shipped.
Okay, so the early evidence points strongly towards a real, hidden, single-player jetpack. But then, years pass. And Rockstar does something that, well, it split the community, didn't it?
That was the big controversy in 2017, the thruster vehicle. It showed up in the GTA Online Doomsday Heist update.
Right, and it looked, pretty similar to the jetpack on the mural. You even use it inside the Mount Chiliad bunker during that heist.
Yep. Functionally similar, visually similar silhouette.
And for a lot of players, that was kind of it. Case closed. The argument became, okay, Rockstar just scrapped the single-player puzzle. Maybe it was too complex. And they just reused the asset for GTA Online.
A way to monetize it, basically.
Yeah, sell the solution instead of letting players find it.
And look, that's an understandable take, right, given how online games evolve and monetization works. But the counter-argument is actually quite strong, and it's backed up by all the other clues that kept dropping.
Like what?
Well, think about it. If they really just wanted to reuse the asset and kill the mystery, why give it a completely different name? Why call it the thruster in online and not just the jetpack?
Good point.
And why keep adding these subtle little hints in later single-player focused updates or even online updates that seem to point back to the story mode? Things that practically scream, hey, you guys missed something back here.
So the idea is the thruster wasn't the answer. It was maybe even a misdirect.
It's possible, a deliberate misdirect. The fact that the thruster exists alongside this decade of other clues we're about to get into, it suggests the original single-player jetpack, the one the early data pointing to, is still out there. Hidden behind some mechanism the thruster just bypasses.
Okay, and that suspicion gets even stronger when you look at the other missing icon, right? The alien egg.
Exactly the same pattern. The cracked egg icon from the mural. Never found in story mode. But again, the data miners found it almost immediately.
In the files from launch.
Yep. A specific prop named Propelling Egg 01. It was a fully modeled, textured object ready to go, just not placed anywhere you could find it, sitting in the game files from 2013, waiting.
And just like the jetpack, it eventually pops up in GTA Online.
It did. Also in 2017, in the gun running update, you could find this alien egg, the exact model from the files, at a crashed UFO site during a supply mission.
Okay, so it appeared. But under what conditions? Was it tied to the story?
Not at all, and this is the really frustrating part for the hunters. It only appeared after you'd completed, get this, 600 business resupply missions. 600. And even then, only between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. in game time.
That's not an Easter egg hunt. That sounds like just an insane grind. Or, like you said, a push towards microtransactions to speed things up.
Pretty much. It felt arbitrary. But again, for our purposes, the key detail is the specific single-player data for both the egg and the jetpack was there from the very beginning.
Right.
Their later appearance in online under these really weird, grindy conditions, and often tied physically to locations like Fort Zancudo or the Chiliad area itself, it almost reinforces the idea that the real unlock, the original story mode sequence, is still missing.
So the online appearances aren't the solution. They're more like a taunt, a confirmation that the items are real, challenging players to find the original way.
That's how many dedicated sleuths see it. Yes. The ultimate rock star troll, maybe.
Okay, so if 100% completion and standing in the rain isn't the full answer, we need the real trigger, the activation mechanism. And this brings us to maybe the most promising lead right now. The deep data trail and what you're calling the gray phone connection.
Right. If we're assuming there's a more complex trigger sequence involved, we have to look at stuff that was maybe cut or hidden or just left in a state where it's accessible but not obvious how to use it.
That makes sense.
And this leads us to what I think, and many in the community think, is potentially the biggest untapped lead in this whole decade-long search. It's a connection between a very strange, unfound artifact and a unique state the player can enter.
Okay, intrigued. Let's start with the artifact. It's nicknamed the Aztec Calendar.
Yeah, or sometimes the Doomsday Map. It's this really weird, unplaced 3D model found deep in the game files. Its actual name is Pro-Partifact-01.
Okay.
And it looks like, well, like a circular stone calendar, kind of Aztec or Mayan in style, covered in intricate symbols. It's clearly important, but nobody has ever found it placed anywhere in the actual game world.
And the symbols aren't just random decoration, are they? They relate directly to the mystery.
Oh, absolutely, directly. If you examine the texture files for it, the different rings seem to lay out the whole puzzle. The outer ring has these little pyramid icons.
Like the little pyramids dotted around the map.
Exactly. Many think those mark points of interest across San Andreas. Then, the middle ring has a very clear image of a pilot's mask, maybe Michael's mask, or just referencing flight.
Or the jetpack.
Or the jetpack, or maybe even a UFO. And then the inner ring, it clearly shows a UFO icon. So this hidden object, this artifact, it basically looks like a map or a key for the entire Chiliad sequence.
Wow. Okay, so a hidden map artifact, linking locations to UFOs, suggesting a multi-step puzzle was definitely planned. That's big. But how does this connect to a phone?
This is where it gets really interesting. When data miners were looking at the files associated with this Pro-Partifact-01, they found a texture file that seemed like it should have been applied to the artifact, but wasn't, or maybe only in a specific state.
And what was this texture?
It was incredibly simple, just a single black dot, but the file name associated with this dot texture contained the phrase gray phone.
Gray phone. Okay, a texture named gray phone linked to the hidden map artifact. That's suggestive.
It is, but it gets much more concrete because completely separately, data miners found a hidden functional phone number you can actually dial in the game using your character's cell phone.
A secret number.
Yeah, it's 1-999-367-3767. If you spell that out on the keypad, it could be EMPDROP or maybe EMPEROR.
EMP drop, like an electromagnetic pulse.
Possibly. And when you dial this number, two very specific, unusual things happen. First, there's a small explosion sound effect directly overhead, like something just shorted out or maybe a signal flare sound. Second, and this is the crucial part, your in-game phone's visual theme instantly changes. It turns this unique shade of gray, and the background becomes solid black. And it stays that way until you quit the game session.
Whoa. So dialing this number puts your phone into a unique gray phone mode.
Exactly. That's what the community calls it. A unique visual state for the phone.
That can't be accidental. A unique number causing an explosion and unique, persistent visual change to the phone. That sounds like a deliberate trigger.
We think so too. The connection between that gray phone texture name found with the Aztec calendar map data and this actual gray phone mode activated by dialing the secret number, that feels like the massive missing piece, the critical lead.
So the theory is, dial the number, enter the special gray phone state, and then something else becomes possible.
That's the core idea. Maybe the explosion was originally for testing EMP mechanics in a mission, who knows? But the side effect, the gray phone state itself, that's the key. It feels like an intentional activation state that developers left in.
But hang on, if that number was just for, say, internal developer testing, why should we assume its side effect, this gray theme, is the intended trigger for the game's biggest mystery? Couldn't it just be a leftover bug, a visual glitch?
That's a fair question and a really important one. Why elevate this? The counter is, if it was just a meaningless leftover, why didn't they patch it out? Rockstar has spent 10 years patching tiny graphical glitches, exploits, fine-tuning things.
Yeah, they're usually meticulous about that stuff.
Right. Yet this very specific number, causing this very specific effect, which has a data link, however subtle, to the key artifact. It remains in the game across all versions and updates. That feels deliberate.
Okay.
So the hypothesis becomes, you need to enter gray phone mode. This changes your player status from just 100% complete to something more like an activated seeker. And then you need to go somewhere specific or do something specific.
It acts as the condition, the necessary prerequisite for the final steps, replacing just simple 100% completion.
Precisely. And there's other data that kind of supports the idea that a really complex finale was planned around something like this.
Like what?
Well, data miners found code for something called Alien Runes Overlay.gfx.
Alien Runes Overlay.
Yeah. Hackers managed to actually activate this graphic, overlay it on the screen, and it looks like, well, like a heads-up display. A complex interface with weird alien symbols.
Okay, like something you'd see if you were controlling something.
Exactly. Many people speculate it was meant for piloting a UFO or maybe controlling the jetpack or some other advanced tech.
And where was this overlay code found? Was it just floating around?
No, and this is key. It was found within the code specifically related to the first-person camera mode for helicopters.
Helicopters, that's very specific.
It is. It strongly suggests a drivable UFO was planned, maybe using the game's existing helicopter flight physics as a base, but with this unique alien interface overlay. And maybe that overlay only becomes visible when you're in first person and when your phone is in gray mode.
A drivable UFO would certainly fit the mural and the mystery. A worthy reward.
A very worthy reward. And maybe the jetpack is involved in getting to the UFO or escaping with it?
Okay, one more piece of data here. There was also mention of a missing mission file, something called Ojasod.
Yeah, traces of a mission script or data block named Ojasod were found near the gray phone and artifact data. Now, Ojasod doesn't mean anything. It looks like random letters.
It's like a placeholder name.
Exactly. We know Rockstar does this. They use the codename Orleans for the Bigfoot files, for example, to throw off data miners. So Ojasod being meaningless strongly suggests it was a placeholder for a significant, unfound single-player mission.
A mission that uses the gray phone mode.
That would be the logical conclusion. A mission that perhaps unlocks the Aztec calendar's secrets or triggers the final sequence for the jetpack or the UFO.
But again, isn't it a bit of a leap? Assuming a nonsense file name equals a huge missing mission, could it not just be debris from something else entirely, something canceled?
It's definitely a leap, you're right. But it's about the context. The proximity of this Ojasod file to the other key elements, the artifact, the gray phone code, the UFO overlay, it creates this triangulation. It paints a picture of a major complex sequence being planned.
Maybe like a single-player heist, but instead of gold, you're after alien tech.
Something like that. So the actionable idea firms up, activate gray phone mode. But that still leaves the biggest question. Okay, I'm in gray phone mode, now what? Where do I go? What time? We need locations.
Right, because the game isn't just hidden code. Rockstar also left clues out in the open, didn't they? Through things like murals, cult stuff, even hints in later updates. Clues that seem to point towards specific places and conditions.
Exactly. The data gives us the mechanism, maybe, but these other clues give us the where and when. We need to decode them, and the Doomsday Heist murals in GTA Online are a great example.
Even though they're in online, they seem to reference story mode things.
Clearly. They appeared years later, but they absolutely contain symbols and layouts that connect back to the single-player mystery, suggesting it's all one big connected puzzle that Rockstar hasn't forgotten about.
Okay, let's break them down. There were different colored murals, right? What about the yellow mural?
The yellow mural seems to be about conditions, especially celestial ones. It shows a diagram of the phases of the moon.
Okay, so moon phase might be important, like the Bigfoot hunt needed fog.
Precisely. Maybe it needs to be a full moon or a new moon. But even more interesting is the diagram showing a head looking along a line of sight towards another diagram above a UFO symbol.
A line of sight. From where to where?
Well, the angle and position strongly suggest it's referencing the broken, non-functional telescope up on the lookout point near Sandy Shores, the one that's permanently aimed right at Mount Chiliad, near where the UFO appears.
Huh. So maybe you need to be at that telescope, in gray phone mode, during the right moon phase, looking towards the mountain.
That's a very plausible interpretation. It combines location, condition, and player state.
Then there's the purple mural. That one had a maze. And other symbols.
Yeah, the purple mural looks more like a process or a path. It has a maze with arrows, maybe suggesting movement, like rotating something or following a specific route on the mountain. But critically, it also features the scales of justice symbol and the yin and yang symbol.
Okay, scales of justice, yin yang.
Yeah.
That sounds like balance, morality.
Exactly. And this feeds directly into a long-standing community theory called the Golden Path. The idea is that the ultimate secrets might only be accessible if you've played the game making certain moral choices.
Specifically with Michael, maybe, since he's tied to Epsilon.
Possibly Michael. But more generally, the theory focuses on the game's final mission choice. To walk the Golden Path, you have to choose option C, Death Wish.
Where you save all three protagonists, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor.
Right. You preserve the Trinity, you keep the scales balanced. The theory suggests if you chose to kill Michael or Trevor, you've unbalanced the scales, and the final mystery might be locked off for that playthrough.
Wow. That adds a whole narrative layer to the lock.
It does. It rewards the player who sought unity.
And the red mural. That one connected to the Infinity Killer, Merle Abrahams.
Yeah, the red mural has the infinity symbol, clearly linking to the serial killer obsessed with the number 8. And the crucial clue here comes from the killer's final message, the one you find scrawled in the prison.
I remember that. It was cryptic poetry.
Very. But listen to this part. Where water meets land and fire once spewed forth, there the infinite 8 shall stay until I return.
Fire once spewed forth. That sounds like a volcano.
A defunct volcano, which perfectly describes Mount Chiliad's geological history. It sits where water, the Alamo Sea, the Pacific, meets land, and it's geologically a dead volcano.
So the killer's message basically confirms Chiliad as the focal point.
It seems to nail down the general location. So the murals give us conditions, moon, morality, and confirm the area. But for precise coordinates, we need to look at Michael's journey with the Epsilon program.
Ah yes, Kiflam. The ridiculous cult obsessed with aliens and money. Michael has those side missions where he has to find their tracks.
Exactly. And those Epsilon tracks aren't just random fetch quests. The locations where you find them are incredibly suspicious and seem handpicked to align with the mystery. They give us exact map points.
Like which ones?
Well, track 4, for example, the clue is where the Earth reaches out to the 9th paradigm. Data miners and players confirm this location is the absolute summit of Mount Chiliad, the highest point right near the UFO viewing platform.
Okay, that's prime real estate for the mystery. What else?
Track 6 is even more blatant. The clue is in the core of the mountain where the blast is not felt.
Inside the mountain.
The tract is physically located right in front of door number 2 inside the main tunnel that cuts through Mount Chiliad.
Door number 2. I know door number 1 opened in the online heist. That led to the missile silo.
Correct. But door number 2 right next to it has remained stubbornly locked and inaccessible in single player for 10 years. Finding an Epsilon tract right there feels like a massive pointer.
So potential gray phone activation points, the summit, and door #2 in the tunnel. Any others?
Track 5 is also interesting. It mentions an artifact and is found near one of the observation decks. If we overlay these Epsilon track locations onto our gray phone theory.
You get a list of high priority spots to visit while in gray phone mode.
Exactly. The summit, door, #2, maybe it's Sandy Shores telescope lookout. These become our primary targets. But there's still one more crucial element we need, timing.
And that brings us to spiderwebs. This is one of the weirdest clues, isn't it?
It really is. So there are 2 very specific, unique spiderweb models in the game. They don't look like the normal environmental webs. They're large, distinct, almost unrealistic looking.
Okay.
And the key thing is, they only appear in the game world between the in-game hours of 1 a.m. and 2 a.m.
Just for that 1 hour. Where are they?
One appears under the cable car station platform right near the Chiliad mural itself. The other appears down on the beach at the base of the mountain near Paleto Bay, sort of looking up towards a bridge.
And they're definitely unique props, not just textures.
Definitely unique props. And they've persisted through all the updates, even the enhanced editions. They are clearly deliberate, time-gated objects.
So strange. A 1 hour window for these weird webs to appear.
And Rockstar seems to know the community is aware of them, but maybe hasn't figured out their purpose. Remember Madame Nazar's fortune-telling machine in GTA Online?
Vaguely.
One of its possible fortunes explicitly says, "I see a web still tangled after years of unraveling."
Whoa. Okay, that feels like a direct nod from the developers. They're saying, yes, those webs are important. Keep trying to untangle that.
It seems like it. So this gives us our final condition, the time element. Maybe it's not just about being at the Epsilon location in gray phone mode, but being there between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., perhaps when the webs are visible.
So the immediate test becomes activate gray phone mode, dial the number, then go to one of these key spots, summit, door, #2, maybe even the spiderweb locations themselves, specifically between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m.
That combines all the strongest leads. The unique player state, gray phone, the precise geolocations, Epsilon tracks webs, and the rigid time constraint, 1-2 a.m. It feels very similar, structurally, to how the complex Bigfoot peyote hunt was finally triggered.
Okay, so that feels like a solid plan.
Yep.
Gray phone mode, specific locations, specific time window, but there's still a few other nagging clues out there, aren't there? Things that suggest maybe there's one more step.
There are, and we definitely know Rockstar is where the hunt isn't over. The most blatant piece of evidence for that came in 2017 again, with the gun running update for online.
What happened then?
Inside the new purchasable bunkers, specifically the one at Fort Zancudo, players found a tiny, easily missable Post-it note stuck to a board.
And it said,
clear as day in handwritten text, "This needs an extra push to close."
wow, that's not subtle. That's basically a developer note left in the game saying, you guys are close, but you missed the final step.
Exactly. A direct confirmation that the single-player mystery needed one more push, despite the egg and thruster appearing online.
Okay, so what could that push be? We still have those unsolved clues from the original Collector's Edition map, right? The Blacklight Secrets?
The map that came with the special editions had hidden messages visible only under UV light. Some led to things, but others remained total mysteries.
What are the main unsolved ones?
Well, there's one written above the location of the altruist cult camp up in the Chiliad State Wilderness. It just says, "Between the crates."
Between the crates. And nothing's ever been found there.
Nothing. People have blown up every crate, searched every inch at all times of day, in all weather. Nothing triggers. It remains unsolved.
Weird. What else?
The other big one is near Lago Zancudo, the military swamp area. There's a whole sequence of instructions written there.
Right, I remember reading about this. It's like directions.
Yeah, it says Lago Zancudo, then gives directions like Great Ocean Highway north through North Chumash, 0.5 miles past Raton Canyon, then when guardrail ends, follow the dirt road down to the docks.
Okay, specific directions to a dock near Zancudo.
But then it adds two crucial lines. Bring $500,000 cash age, and then below that, 5 X's. XXXX.
$500,000? In cash, in story mode. That's a lot of money, especially early on.
It's a huge amount, and the purpose is completely unknown. Why bring $500,000 in cash to these docks? Who are you meeting? What are the 5 X's supposed to mean? Is it a password? A location marker?
Could this be the extra push? A massive cash payment needed at a specific spot, maybe only accessible in gray phone mode.
It's a very strong possibility. It implies some kind of final transaction. Maybe the explosion sound from dialing the gray phone number isn't just atmospheric. Maybe it triggers an NPC nearby or reveals something that requires this payment. We have the potential map, Aztec calendar, the trigger, gray phone, the locations, Epsilon webs. Maybe the cash is the final key to turn.
It's definitely tantalizing, but...
Yeah.
Okay, before everyone rushes off to grind $500,000, we need a reality check. We have to remember the pitfalls, right? The history of this hunt is littered with amazing theories that turned out to be nothing.
Absolutely critical point. Skepticism is essential. There's been so much time wasted chasing red herrings. We need to learn from those.
like the Maze Bank fountain reflection, that looked exactly like a hidden map for a while.
Oh yeah, that one had huge traction. But it was eventually definitively debunked. It was just a low-resolution reflection texture combined with the way the game renders water at a distance. Pareidolia, basically. Seeing a pattern that wasn't intentionally there.
So graphical quirk, not a clue. What else? The Epsilon robe bomb theory.
Another classic example of misreading code. People found a line of code that seemed to connect wearing the blue Epsilon robes with some kind of bomb functionality.
Right, like you had to blow yourself up wearing the robes.
Yeah, but deeper analysis showed it was just generic code related to how the player character handles sticky bombs or other explosives. It applied whether you were wearing the robes or not. It wasn't a specific trigger.
Okay, so misinterpreting code. And finally, we probably shouldn't listen too much to the voice actors, right?
Definitely not for concrete clues. Ned Luke, who voices Michael, has had a lot of fun trolling the community over the years.
Yeah, claiming the answer was diving 78 feet off Del Perro Pier or other specific actions.
Things that were often physically impossible in the game due to boundaries or mechanics. He's likely just engaging with the fans and the fervor. The real answers have to come from the game's data, its verifiable mechanics, and the deliberate clues left by the developers themselves. #outro.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, when you look at the sheer weight of evidence, the fact that Jetpack and Egg were in the original story code, this mysterious Aztec calendar map artifact, the hint of a drivable UFO with that alien runes overlay, the very specific Epsilon tracked locations, the bizarre timed spider webs.
The blatant post-it note saying extra push needed, the unsolved blacklight clues demanding cash.
Yeah, when you put it all together, it really does feel like the Mount Chiliad mystery isn't solved. It's just locked behind an incredibly complex, maybe multi-stage lock that requires a very specific sequence.
And the most promising key we have right now seems to be that synthesis, combining an activation state with a geolocated clue and potentially a time window.
So the core actionable plan, for you listening if you want to try this.
Activate the gray phone mode. Dial 1-999-367-3767. Then systematically visit those critical locations, the Chiliad summit, door #2 in the tunnel, maybe the spiderweb spots near the cable car or Paleto Beach. And crucially, try doing it between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in-game time.
Maybe even make sure you've chosen the Death Wish ending, just in case the Golden Path theory is right. And maybe start saving up that $500,000.
Couldn't hurt to have it on hand, just in case something triggers at those docks near Zancudo.
This approach hits all the major data points: unique state, location, timing, potential cost.
It's clear Rockstar has wanted this mystery to persist. They've nurtured it for over 10 years, dropping hints across updates, even referencing it in other games. It's become this generational gaming quest. And that longevity, that constant nudging, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Why has it been so hard? Why did they seemingly have to keep adding clues or using online to point people back?
Yeah, like maybe the original single-player solution was just too obscure, or maybe it relied on a mechanic that wasn't fully implemented or explained properly in GTA V itself.
Which brings us to our final kind of provocative thought for you to chew on.
Go on.
We now know, thanks to the first trailer, that the iconic Mount Chiliad mural itself, or graffiti referencing it, appears in the world of GTA 6.
Right. That was spotted pretty quickly. A deliberate callback.
So given Rockstar's long game here, this decade of tending to the mystery, is it completely crazy to think the ultimate solution wasn't ever meant to be found entirely within GTA V?
You mean like a cross-game puzzle?
Maybe. Could it be that unlocking the final secrets of Mount Chiliad requires something introduced in GTA V? A new piece of tech, a specific character's ability, maybe Lucia or Jason have some insight, or even just a perspective that finally clicks the GTA V puzzle into place.
So our mission in GTA V wasn't necessarily to solve it completely, but to get everything set up for the final piece of the puzzle arriving in the next game. A true multi-generational Easter egg.
It's a wild thought, but with Rockstar, you never know. Is the final step waiting for us in Vice City?
Definitely something to think about while you're maybe booting up GTA V again, checking your completion stats, and thinking about dialing 1-999-367-3767. That's all the time we have for this final deep dive into the enigma that is Mount Chiliad. Thanks for joining us.